What if the reason you are broke has nothing to do with how much you earn? Think about that for a second. You have had raises. You have worked overtime. You have told yourself things will be different when the next paycheck hits. And yet, here you are. The math keeps not adding up. What if the problem was never the income? What if the real enemy has been invisible this entire time, living inside the decisions you make, before you even realize you are making them? By the end of this, you will understand exactly why. Meet Marcus, 34 years old, marketing coordinator in Chicago. He makes $52,000 a year, which is more than the median household income in his city. He is not uneducated. He is not lazy. He reads about personal finance. He has downloaded the budgeting apps. He has watched the YouTube videos. He knows what a Roth IRA is. And yet, Marcus has $412 in savings. Every month money comes in, and every month it disappears. Not into one obvious drain, not into some catastrophic mistake. It just goes. A little here. A subscription he forgot about. A dinner out because he had a bad day. A gadget he convinced himself was an investment. A slightly nicer apartment than he needed because the other one felt embarrassing. Marcus is not failing because of math. He understands the math. He is failing because of something that happens before the math, something in the space between, the moment he wants something and the moment he decides to buy it. That space, that fraction of a second, that is where his financial life is actually being decided. And here is what makes Marcus's situation genuinely disturbing. He is not an exception. Studies consistently show that across income levels, the majority of Americans report living paycheck to paycheck. People earning six figures, people with graduate degrees, people who know better, which means the problem is not information. You have the information. Marcus has the information. So what is actually going on? Stay with me, because what I am about to show you will change how you see every financial decision you have ever made. Your brain was not designed to build wealth. Full stop. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroscience. The human brain evolved over 200,000 years to solve one problem: survival in an environment of scarcity and immediate physical threat. In that environment, the smartest strategy was always to consume available resources now, because tomorrow was genuinely uncertain. There was no evolutionary pressure to delay gratification, to think abstractly about compound interest, or to resist the psychological pull of immediate reward. And then, in the blink of evolutionary time, we invented money, and credit cards, and one-click checkout. Think about that for a second. The same brain architecture that helped your ancestors survive a famine is now navigating a world engineered by some of the most sophisticated behavioral scientists on Earth, specifically to exploit that ancient wiring. You were never fighting poverty. You were fighting 200,000 years of neurobiology. The first invisible force is called present bias. Behavioral economists Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler spent decades documenting this. The human brain consistently and dramatically overvalues immediate rewards compared to future rewards of equal or greater size. In practical terms, your brain values $100 today as significantly more valuable than $150 in 6 months. Not slightly more, significantly more. This is not a personality flaw. This is your brain's architecture. Every time Marcus chose the dinner out over adding to his savings account, his brain was not being irrational by its own standards. It was performing exactly as designed. The pleasure center activated, the reward pathway fired, the future consequence, the account that did not grow, the emergency fund that was not there, was processed in the abstract prefrontal cortex, the newest and weakest part of the brain, in a direct competition with the ancient limbic system. Ancient brain versus modern financial instrument. Ancient brain wins almost every time. But here's the problem, and this is the insight that most financial advice completely skips. Over-knowing about present bias does not automatically fix it. Understanding the trap does not automatically spring you from it, because the second invisible force is even more subtle. It is called social comparison, and in evolutionary terms it was once essential. In a small tribal community, monitoring your relative status, whether you had more or less than your neighbors, was genuinely survival relevant. Your position in the social hierarchy determined your access to resources, mates, and protection. In 2026, It determines which car you drive and whether you feel good about it. When Marcus upgraded to a slightly nicer apartment than he could comfortably afford, his prefrontal cortex did not make that decision. His ancient social comparison circuitry did. His brain detected a gap between his current status signal and the status signals he was consuming daily on social media, through advertising, through his peer group, and it generated a low-grade anxiety that the nicer apartment briefly resolved. For about 3 weeks, then the anxiety returned. This is called hedonic adaptation, the documented psychological phenomenon in which humans rapidly adjust to improved circumstances and return to their emotional baseline. Every upgrade becomes the new normal. Every new acquisition stops feeling special within weeks or months, and the cycle begins again. Marcus's financial decisions were not random. They were not weak. They were the perfectly logical output of a brain doing exactly what evolution designed it to do, in an environment that evolution never prepared it for. And the companies selling to Marcus understood every single one of these mechanisms better than Marcus did, which brings us to the reality that most people never see clearly. The behavioral science that explains why Marcus keeps broke was not developed to help Marcus. It was developed to predict and influence Marcus's just behavior, primarily to encourage him to spend money he does not have on things he does not need. The field of behavioral economics produced Nobel Prize winners in 2002 and 2017, specifically because of how precisely it described the exploitable gaps in human financial reasoning. Those discoveries moved quickly from academic journals into marketing departments, product design teams, and financial product structures, often within the same decade they were published. Every major platform you use has been engineered using documented psychological principles. Variable reward schedules, the same mechanism that drives slot machine addiction, power, every social media notification system, loss aversion, the documented human tendency to feel losses approximately twice as strongly as equivalent gains, is the specific mechanism behind limited time offer and only 3 left in stock messaging. Think about the last time you bought something because of a countdown timer. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational planning part of your brain, was not in charge of that decision. Your amygdala was. The ancient threat detection system that your brain uses to respond to predators was activated by a timer on a clothing website. And here is where it compounds into a genuine financial crisis for people like Marcus. Research by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that the average American household with credit card debt pays over $1,000 per year in interest alone, essentially a tax on the cognitive vulnerabilities that present bias and social comparison create. The financial product was designed around the psychology. The payment structure, minimum payments that keep balances alive for years, is optimized to extract the maximum revenue from a brain that consistently undervalues future costs. But here's the problem that makes this genuinely hard. These psychological mechanisms operate largely below the level of conscious awareness. Marcus does not feel present bias when he makes a purchase. He feels a reason, a justification that his brain constructs after the fact, to explain a decision that was already made at the neurological level. I deserve this. I will start the budget next month. This one was actually a good deal. I needed it. Researchers call this post hoc rationalization, the conscious mind creating a logical story to explain what the unconscious mind has already decided. It is not dishonesty. It is just how the human brain works, and it means that willpower, discipline, and information, the 3 things most personal finance advice relies on, are fighting against a system that operates before those tools are even activated, which is why Marcus, despite knowing everything intellectually, still has $412 in savings, and which is why the solution is not what most people think it is. Here is the shift that changes everything. You cannot win a battle against your own brain by fighting harder. You win it by redesigning the environment your brain operates in. This is the insight behavioral economists call choice architecture, and it is the most powerful and underutilized financial tool available to anyone, at any income level. The standard financial advice tells you to want things less, to resist more, to discipline yourself harder. But if present bias and hedonic adaptation are neurological, not moral, then resisting them, through willpower is like trying to outrun your own shadow. The alternative is to make the financially wise choice the automatic choice, so the ancient brain does not have to compete against modern financial instruments. Write this down. The first shift is automation. Move money out of your checking account the day your paycheck arrives, before your brain has registered it as available to spend. Savings and investment contributions that happen automatically bypass present bias entirely because the decision happens only once, not repeatedly in the presence of competing desires. Marcus set up an automatic transfer of $200 to a savings account every payday. He did not feel it leave. He did not have to decide every month. His savings started growing without involving his conscious decision-making at any point. The second shift is friction. Every behavioral study on spending shows that adding even minimal friction to a purchase reduces impulsive spending significantly. Delete saved payment methods from shopping sites. Remove shopping apps from your home screen. Add a 24-hour wait rule to any non-essential purchase above $50. These are not restrictions. They are architecture that gives your prefrontal cortex, your actual self, time to be involved in the decision. The third shift is environment curation. Your brain constantly monitors your environment for social comparison signals. Environments saturated with high consumption signals, certain social media feeds, certain peer groups, certain neighborhoods, systematically increase your spending through social comparison and status anxiety. Intentionally curating your inputs is not antisocial. It is recognizing that your spending decisions are partially being made for you by your environment. The fourth shift is redefining the status signal. Here is something the research consistently shows. For people who achieve actual financial security, the status symbol eventually becomes the financial security itself, the number in the account, the absence of anxiety at the end of the month. Marcus did not stop wanting status. He redirected what counted as status in his own internal scorecard and found that a fully funded emergency account produced more lasting satisfaction than any object ever had. Because here is what hedonic adaptation never told you. It works in reverse, too. Your brain adapts downward as fast as it adapts upward, which means simplifying, redirecting, and choosing financial stability will eventually feel normal and feel good, with the same inevitability that every purchase eventually stops feeling special. Marcus still lives in Chicago. He still makes $52,000 a year, 18 months after understanding what was actually driving his financial decisions, not fighting it, understanding it. He has $11,000 in savings. His spending has not dramatically changed. His income has not changed. His architecture changed. The invisible force that was keeping him broke was never a lack of information, and it was never a lack of willpower. It was a brain doing exactly what it was built to do, in an environment it was never built for. And if this made you look at your own decisions differently, at the dinner you did not really need, the upgrade that never quite delivered, the account you meant to start and never did, then you already understand more about why you are where you are financially than most people ever say. If this made you see yourself differently, save this video. You are going to want to come back to this. Money rarely reveals what you want. It reveals the decisions you were already making before you realized you were making them.